Do. Hello, hello. It's been a minute. Let's get in here. I am going to start the live at 11 o'clock. It is currently 10:58. I'm going to get this hair nice and cute as I can get it for the time being. Again, we're starting at 11 o'clock. I'm allowing some people to get in. Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. And I got my water. Okay. 2 minutes. If you are here right now, what it do? It's your girl Whitney B, better known as the Dopest Historian. It's been a minute. It's been a very long time since I've come to talk to you all. So, bear with me. But I'm excited. I'm excited to go live. It's been a long time. I think the last thing I've done was, I guess, July, when I was doing YMCA stuff with the listers. But outside of that, I ain't been in the public in a minute. Been working, okay? A lot of you know I have 2 jobs. So that's one of the main reasons why y'all haven't seen me. But we're going to get all into that at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Yeah, so just come in, pull up, put your earphones in if you're at work. If not, watch it on the replay. A lot of y'all watch me on the replay, and I appreciate that y'all see my video. I'm like, what's she talking about? Let me scroll through a little bit and see what she's saying. Thank you. Y'all, I need this hair to last till tomorrow, because I got some things to do. But I don't know. I may have to low puff it, I may have to give it the little slick. All right. It's 11 o'clock. The time is here. Should I put on a filter? Let's see. Let's see if I should filter it out. You know what I'm saying? Let's play with the filters. Ooh, I'm floating into eternity. Looking like the end game. Ooh. Okay, maybe not. I'm here by myself, so, who cares, right? But I like being here by myself. That way I can just talk, and y'all can rewatch later. Again, I'm just going through some filters, because I can and I want to. Okay. Alrighty, y'all. It's 11:01. Let's get it started. No filter. So, what's up? It's your girl, Whitney B, better known as the Dopest Historian. If this is your first time here, your first time seeing me, girl, who is you? I kind of saw you last night, or I heard about you from last night with the Holocaust Museum and the Alley Theater. I'm interested in what you're doing. Who are you? How do you do it? What is it all about? A lot of people have come up to me lately is it a blog, or do you have a website, and da-da-da-da, and it's just yes and no. Yes and no. I do have a website, but it ain't websiting, okay? But it's there because, I have been making a presence over these last 3 years since I've started Dopest History. And so, background to get you to why I'm about to read you my bio. So yesterday evening, I had the honor to speak at the Holocaust Museum in regards to The Resonance of Time by Alley Theater. Written and directed by my guy, Nick Stewart, okay? Yeah, so we had the Holocaust Museum Houston and the Alley Theater put on a production yesterday in the Albert and Ethel Theater. Thursday, November 16, 2023, there was a pre-reception. Everybody was getting their drink on. I was not, because I was, trying to make sure I was in the right mind to give out the Dopest History. I wish I could, I ain't gonna lie. But yes, wine, little light snacks at 6:30. And then at 7, the performance started. And we're going to talk about the performance. The timeline is here. We're going to talk about the performance, as well as some of the dope history that was talked within the play, as well as just things that I've researched and learned as I was prepping for the history talk back. So yeah, I was actually a part of the history talk back last evening. And so after the play, they invited 3 historians on stage, as well as the actors and actresses, to give a talk back to the audience in regards to the significance of the Green Book, the Negro Motorist book, the Negro Traveler's book, as I'll talk about it later. The Green Book had many names. But yeah, it was an honor, a pleasure. Like, you know me, you call Whitney B to do some dope history, baby, I'm there, okay? And we're going to really get into it. I'm going to really give you the facts, okay? So if you're interested in watching that talk back, go to YouTube, Dope It's History, DOPEITS HISTORY, Dope It's History. Go tune into that talk back, like the video, let me know what you think. Again, this live is actually going to be a continuation of the talk back because there was so much I wanted to share and I didn't get to share it. So I'm like, I haven't talked to my folks in forever. I haven't given them no dope history in forever. There was no dope history month because I was working. No dope Houston history month. Like, I really, you know what I'm saying? I did a lot of gigs this year. But I didn't necessarily get to come live or do just videos and just give you that one-on-one history the way that I like to do it. So again, for those who don't know me, I'm going to read my bio because, you know what I'm saying, I had to submit a bio. And although it didn't get read yesterday, I thought that, my bio was pretty neat and cool. So, thank you again for visiting my page. My name is Whitney B., better known as the Dopest Historian. I'm a Houston public historian who is on a mission to enlighten people on how dope history truly is, okay? And when I say dope, it's cool, fun, awesome, amazing, live. Like, history is just, it's honestly the best thing on earth. Anything and everything you do, I say this all the time, history is involved. So whatever you like to do in life, whether that's sitting at a desk, you like reading, you like dancing, you like singing, you like acting, you like history, you like the sky, you're into the astro world, you're into whatever you into, baby, there's a history to it. And so if you get into the history of whatever you're passionate about, I'm pretty sure that you'll think that history is pretty dope as well. Because, who doesn't want to know the backstory of what they're doing, why they're doing it, right? So with the natural love of history, Whitney, me, has been working overtime to spread this not so ancient knowledge. And again, my goal is to, you may know a lot of things that I'm talking about, but again, it's to spread the knowledge to those who they may know it but didn't know like that much, or like they knew the very tops of it. They really didn't ever want to go into the deep end. Like, a lot of people know over the last couple of years there's been a lot of talks about the Green Book, but again, there's history tidbits that I feel like everybody should know. And so that's where I come in as the dopest historian, giving you just like the livest live history. Okay. So I've been working overtime to spread this not so ancient knowledge. Since launching Dope History Month in August 2020, I have appeared on nationally recognized podcasts. Shout out to Who I Do Wed. I've curated a tour for organizations from out of state. Shout out to En Route Travel, as well as hosted events for the city of Houston. Shout out to my girl Stacy, okay? And as I talk about that, I started to, sometimes my mind races faster than what I want to speak on. But in regards to the city of Houston, this past year, I was able to MC, what is it called, y'all? Shorts in Color. I was able to MC Shorts in Color, where Miss Stacey Allen put on this amazing production of beautiful dancers. And they're going to do it next year. And I'm going to invite you all right now in November to come out next year. I'll be promoting it as more things come out, but I have been asked to MC it again. So, okay, let's get into it. So I catch your girl at Discovery Green. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get lit with the children. I love the children. I did a lot of children events this year. And so again, I didn't necessarily want to be a teacher, but I did want to be able to teach those like children who, may put off history in the beginning because it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of writing. But if you make it cool, fun, engaging, history is really the best subject. I feel like history will get you interested in the other subject. Okay, learn the history about math. Let's learn the history of science. Let's learn the history of English and reading and whatever other course that we have to learn. And you may be more interested and intrigued to, okay, well, this is the background of it. Let's see how it actually works and functions, right? So, Dope It's History, my brand. I'm the Dope It's Historian. And my brand is Dope It's History. Dope It's History is a brand that seeks to engage with the general collective on history that may have been discarded, if not told in a different light. History that everyone should know. History that makes you say, what? Dope. That's history, okay? Or that's dope history. Either way you go, you know what I'm saying? As long as you like history, okay. I didn't know that. I did not know that. That is like my overall goal when I'm sharing history. Like, girl, I did not know that. Really? Wow. That is amazing. Or damn, that's messed up. You know what I'm saying? So all history isn't great. So whether you think that it's great or amazing or sad, the idea for me is just to let you know about it, right? So, as an employee of the Alley Theater and Rice University, the dopest historian, me, continues to live in her passion-filled world of dope history. So, as I just said, I work for the Alley Theater, who partnered with the Holocaust Museum to put on this production yesterday. And then I also work at Rice University, and both are just amazing, an honor, like so fulfilling. Like, I mean, I'm literally living my dream right now as the dopest historian. I'm able to engage in some of the dopest history every day within work. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Alley Theater in itself, it is a historical theater. And then Rice University, and actually being an employee under the first Black president at Rice, it's just an honor in my journey to be where I am right now. And so that was just a little tidbit of who I am, what I do, how I got here, etc., etc. But now we've been talking about 10 minutes. Let's get into some of this history, specifically the history related to Resonance of Time, which was written and directed by Nick Stewart of the Alley Theater. When Nick asked me to be a part of this history panel, it was a no-brainer. Like, of course, it's my job, the Alley Theater. It's history coming together, meshing together, talking about some of the dopest history. And we're talking about the Negro Traveler's Green Book. So it wasn't hard for me to say yes to this opportunity. I'm so thankful for the opportunity, and I thank you all for joining my live. And again, thank you already for those who do the watch back, because them the ones that really warm my heart. Like, oh, you see me post and you watched it back. How amazing. But yeah, so Resonance of Time. For me, the play was amazing. If you weren't able to catch it in person, you can go on actually this page, Dope It's History or the Dopest Historian, and watch the whole story. I'm going to try to download it. I'm not sure if it'll come out in the quality that I want it to, but I definitely would like to download it to be able to share on my YouTube as well, just so you all can get a better look at it. But if you were able to look at it and catch it in different moments, you will notice that there were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were like 5 acts. Act 1 was 1930s, Harlem, NYC. Act 2 was the 1940s, Idlewild, Michigan. That's when we had our first dance break. And then we had 1950s, Birmingham, Alabama. Then we had 2 dance breaks. And when I tell you the dancers were on point, okay, they had me lit. I was recording, but I was like, okay, like it's getting lit up in there. I'll let me bust a move, okay? And then we have 1960s, the 4th act, South Central LA. And then the finale was America Has a Problem, Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar. And if you know me on a personal level, you know I was really lit at that point, because Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar, I mean, those are my faves, right? So yeah, the story was great. The storyline was great. The history that was told was great. And so what I want to do is go by each timeline. And the idea is that I'm going to go by each timeline and share history in regards to what they were sharing in the actual play. But then just want to give, a lot of dope history, backstory to a lot of the things that they weren't able to say. So we're going to start off with the Green Book. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so again, the Green Book, and the Green Book is the shortened term, right? We have the Negroes Motorist Green Book. Then it turned into the Negroes Green Book, and then I believe it turned into the Traveler. So over time periods, it changed to different names. And right now, worldwide, in the modern world, if you mention the Green Book, then most people understand that, oh, you're talking about the Negro Motorist Green Book, the travel guide for Black people during a time where, Black people really weren't welcomed on the road. So the Green Book was founded in 1936. Its first publishing was in 1937, and it was published by a postal worker named Victor Green. Victor Green, as I mentioned last night, was that dude, okay? Like, you want to talk about an entrepreneur, okay? He was really doing his thing. He was a postal worker for actually 39 years. He founded the Green Book and continued to work as a postal worker. And in that, he was basically doing the Green Book as a side gig. What he would do is he would go to other postal workers or, communicate with other postal workers and say, hey, I have this Green Book. I would love for you to share the different sites and locations in your area that are welcoming to Black Americans. And so over time, people started to submit these locations, and that's when we started to get the Green Book. In the beginning, there were short listings. There weren't a lot. In the beginning, it actually was just only relative to New York because he was in Harlem, New York. Okay, so we're starting off in Harlem, New York in the early 1930s, and this book would grow on to be an international thing. Okay, he made contracts with the federal government. He made contracts with Esso Oil, which is actually Exxon today, but we'll get into the history of that in a little bit. What else do we want to talk about? I mentioned this yesterday a lot of times I'm going to talk from the top of my head, but when I feel like I'm rambling, I'm definitely just going to go to the book so I can, give you some quick facts real quick. And I mentioned this last night that the Green Book was to Black people what AAA was to white people. And a lot of people don't know, me and especially, I didn't know that, you could have figured it out, right? Because, the world we live in. But back in the day, back when AAA did not allow Black people to hold policies with them. And so the Green Book was, that sure thing to get people from point A to B, especially when they were traveling, whether they were traveling in inner city or across states. It gave them directions on how to tune up their car, how to change a tire, the things that they would need to travel. Again, Black people traveling during this time was not a safe thing. And so it would be very dangerous for them to stop on the side of the roads, stop to go use the restroom, stop to get gas, so they prepared ahead of time by making lunch boxes, by bringing pea cans, like cans that they could use the restroom in, because oftentimes, again, if they were traveling with children, they could not stop at a regular gas station. A lot of times, they'd be traveling through sundown roads. Sundown cities. And if you aren't aware of what a sundown city is, pretty much basically, some of them still exist today for Black people. If you're traveling and the sun is starting to go down, there's some cities, some counties that you don't want to necessarily be in, okay? Because, bad things happen. People go missing. People died, killed, hanged, lynched, all of the great grand things. And I say great grand things, but not really great. They were grand because it was done on a large scale. But yeah, like traveling, even today, a lot of Black people understand, we use the term driving while Black. This stems from way, way, way back. But the interesting thing is that although driving while Black is a thing, although we needed the Green Book to travel, it was a really great tool and it empowered people to travel. It didn't necessarily have people straying away from travel, and Black people felt empowered to be able to get behind a car and travel across country because it was actually a defense mechanism. The Green Book was an act of resistance and a tool of survival. So imagine if, as oftentimes happen, somebody was walking down the sidewalk, a Black person was walking down the sidewalk, a white mob sees the Black person, who's to say what would happen to that Black person? Versus if you're a Black person in a car and a white mob sees you in a car, it may be a race or a chase, rather. There may be a chase of some sort, but you have a more chance of escaping than, you being on your 2 feet, or you being on a train car, subject to those on the car, subject to the Jim Crow laws. In your car, it's your car, yourself, your rules. There was still a lot of rules that you had to follow, or what are they called? De facto, because it was de facto segregation. Oh no, was it de jure? Darn it, guys. Don't quote me. It's one or the other. One is, written in law. One is, and I want to say de jure. De jure is written in law, and de facto is like, you know better than to do what you're doing. Like the de facto of, okay, we're going to walk on the side. Black people couldn't walk on the same sidewalk as white people. That was something that was just like known within the community. But anyways, let's get back on track. And so as I'm talking about Black people and them traveling and how they felt about traveling, I have this quote here by Lester B. Granger. And he says, "So as far as travel is concerned, Negroes are America's last pioneers." Again, we weren't allowed to travel. It was in the laws. Like when we were enslaved, it was illegal. Like you would go to jail if you were caught in a different state than where you were supposed to be stationed in. If you were in a different county than where you were known to be in. Black people were often just, they were forced to be stationary in where they were. And so when Black people got the opportunity and had the economics to start traveling, that's what we decided to do. That's where you get the Great Migration history from. There's a lot of history that ties into the history of Black travel. And while I'm talking about that, I want to mention the 3 resources that I actually received a lot of this information from. I spent about the last month or so reading 3 books. And these were very great books. I got them from Rice University in the library. You know what I'm saying? Fondren Library. Shout out. I went in and I borrowed And I Will Return Traveling Black by Mia Bay. And then we have Driving the Green Book by Alvin Hall. And then we have Driving While Black, African American Travel and the Road to Civil Rights, by Gretchen Soren. So these 3 books were very instrumental in me finding out the history that I'm sharing with you all today. I also did a lot of research on the Internet Archive. It's free. That's what I like to do when I'm looking into some history. But let's go on to the next thing. So when I was talking about Victor Green and his amazing entrepreneurism, one of the great things is that he established great connections with different people across the country. And because of circulation contracts, he was able to help with the distribution of his book in exchange for promotion. So one of the things that we shared yesterday evening is that although the Green Book is, the most known traveler's guide, there were many, many, many traveler's guide. But the reason why the Green Book was so amazing and why it stood the test of time was because he grew and had great connections with a lot of high business people. He had a dedicated staff, all women, an all-women staff in New York. His wife was very instrumental in helping him. And speaking to that, a little bit, as I'm speaking about his wife, I want to go ahead and tell you that his wife is one of the inspirations on why he felt the need for the Green Book. One, he was a World War I veteran, and so there was a lot of traveling that he did once he came back, and his wife was from Virginia. He was in Harlem. His wife was in Virginia. And so oftentimes they would have to travel. And again, he saw other travelers' guides and what they were trying to do. And so he created his own brainchild, the Green Book, and he worked to develop it to what it became over a 30-year span. The Green Book didn't dissipate. I believe its last publication was like the late 1960s. Okay, so from the 1930s, so like the Great Depression all the way up until the Civil Rights era is when the Green Book was in publication. Like I said, there was an international edition of the Green Book. They supported the civil rights movement by listing states that passed laws against any forms of discrimination. The Green Book kept the community informed by writing articles, again, by letting people know where to go eat, where they could stay, where they could go get their hair done, where they could go have fun for entertainment. There were many different categories within the Green Book over the years of it growing. So at first it started off as a motorist Green Book. So it probably just, I believe it just explains like places where you could stop to get your gas, places to stop where you could sleep, things that motorists were most concerned about when traveling. But when we upgraded or transformed into the Negro Travelers Green Book, that's when we start talking about, your resorts, your places of entertainment, again, places to eat, get your hair cut, just many different venues that were welcoming and opening to Black people. And although a lot of people think that most of these businesses were Black owned, but there were some white owners that were listed in the Green Book. It was a Black owned thing, like the Green Book was Black owned, but the people listed within the book, they were not all Black people. They were people who sought and were open to helping Black Americans. And one of the things I like to share that I read a lot was that, it was hard for Victor, the founder of the Green Book, to find locations that catered to Black people the more he went west. He really had to put the work in to find these locations. And again, as we start off in the beginning, you have we start off with New York, and then we grow to maybe like 5 states. Then we go to 15, and then we grow to 30. And then eventually, again, we have at least one place one place where Black people can go in the United States, in each state. And then we even start to incorporate Canada, Mexico, and other international places. In 1960, more than 3,000 establishments for Black travelers, and like I was just talking about this. So by 1960, there were more than 3,000 establishments for Black travelers in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean. That's just a dope history fact to tell. One of the interesting things that I want to talk about is the widowers, women who lost their husband, were often made extra income by opening their house for travelers. And what this thing in this situation would be called tourist house, or tour house, one or the other, one of those. Okay. But with that, so basically women who lost their husbands, women who just loved hospitality, or different house owners, they would open their house and they would either rent out a room. They would sometimes rent out, that extra house that they had for different travelers, specifically a lot of times for musicians. And so when I was reading, I thought it was very interesting that if you visit some museums, you can actually see the logs of maybe a tour house and see who actually visited there. And so submitters were paid. People who submitted locations to Victor Green, and if it was published, they were paid sometimes like $1. Again, the Traveler's Green Book it started off being like 25 cents, and it grew from 25 cents to $1.25. And I'm pretty sure there were some other prices within there. But again, we're also talking about the economics. That's what I want to highlight as well. And that's why I decided to write this down, is because not only was the Green Book something to keep Black Americans safe, it also brought a lot of money brought the economics of a Black Americans to a higher standard. Give me one moment, please. So again, women would often open their houses for money. They would get money by opening their houses and allowing travelers to come in. We had people submitting locations, and they would make money. And then you have the businesses themselves. If you were published in the Green Book, understand that was a big, great feat. People would know while visiting your city, your state, your county, that they can stop by you and get hospitality. And then there was a lot of times I would read that it may not be the best accommodations, but you would be accommodated, And so that was another thing. Another reason why it was so great for Black Americans to be able to hold a car is because a lot of times before the Green Book, or even while the Green Book was being published again, while traveling west, we didn't have many places to stop at. And so people would have to sleep in their car, You can't travel. Well, you could, but it'd be very hard to travel for days on end without stopping. There were many crashes. There were many accidents. And I read how, during that time, that was one of the other dangers of traveling while Black, because if you got in a car wreck, which often happened because people were afraid to stop in certain cities and certain counties, a lot of times you would crash in, say you crashed in a white county, you would often die for the lack of care that you would get from the hospitals. A lot of times they would not admit you if you were Black, right? Again, we're talking about the eras of Jim Crow. We are talking about segregation. We're talking about whites only, Blacks only, white hospital, Black hospital, white restroom, Black restroom, white school, Black school. Any way you want to put it, it was split down the middle. It was supposed to be separate but equal. We know that to not be true today. And so a lot of times Black people died on the road from when they crashed, and they would have to be sent to the Negro hospital, who had less amenities than the white hospitals. One interesting thing is one thing that I was reading, and I didn't write it. I don't have it written down here, but there was a famous, was it? Yes. And you may know this. And if you don't, here's some dope history. A Black man was the reason why we're able to do blood transfusions today. He did the mechanics and science and figured it out. He was a doctor, and he ended up dying because he crashed. He was in a car crash, and he was taken to a white hospital, and he was fair complexion. But after a while, they realized, like, hey, this is a Black man. We're not about to do any work on him. Then they started to lollygag, and he pretty much, he died, and so that's an interesting history fact tidbit, not so great to know that, like, the man who was over the what do we want to say, invention, idea, brainchild of blood transfusion, he died because he was a Black man in a white county, and the white hospitals did not want to serve him. Just sucky. But yeah, I want to now go on to, we're spending a lot of time on Harlem, NYC, but I do have some Idlewild, Michigan history as well. The people who found the Green Book helpful were sororities and fraternities for conferences. Again, imagine a big group of people needing a place to stay, but no accommodations, no way to do it. I mean, this is before the age of the internet, and I talked about this last night. This was before we could go on Google and find out, okay, who open, who not open, where are they, how do we get there? This was before that. So the Green Book was that shortcut for them. And also the Green Book at a certain point in time would also reserve rooms for people. And so I think that was interesting, that not only did they let people know where to go, they would also set up their reservations ahead of time for them, and to ensure that they had, a place to stay while they were traveling. Businessmen who frequently traveled, they also enjoyed the Green Book. Musicians who frequently traveled, they used the Green Book. Between this is another history fact that I thought that was very interesting. Between 1922, this is the 20s. Between the 20s and 1975, Nellie Bass booked reservations, helping the Green Book over time to secure accommodations across the states. So she was somebody who was, I believe she was in Mississippi. If you are familiar with the 5 Blind Boys of Mississippi, she was one of the that was one of the groups that she booked for. And so as she traveled the world for different musicians and, getting people accommodated, she would submit these locations to the Green Book. So she was a big help to the Green Book. And as I talk about Nellie Bass, I want to go back to just reiterate that the women, Black women in particular, were really highlighted within the Green Book, and really shown as, equal to the black men, because they were the ones that was running the behind the scenes. They were the ones that were opening their houses. And like I said, Miss Nellie Bass, she was traveling the country giving back the information so that these books could be published over time. And so I want to talk about some of the reasons why people sought to buy a car, because there was no path to home ownership at the time. So a car was status, right? Again, today it's still technically hard to, buy a house. But I mean, back then it was basically impossible. I mean, we had, people didn't want to give us mortgages. Like they were legally, like, it was like, yeah, they just couldn't. Sorry, my mind just, sometimes I just get so like, like, I can't believe that this was real. Like, they just literally just did not, could not, would not. And there was no penalty for that. That's just what the life was. The world, we lived in a world where black people couldn't own a house. You just couldn't. Like, you could not, should not, would not, And then also, again, the racial discrimination in hotels and motels. And so they would sleep in cars. These were reasons to buy a car. And then also to show the status. One thing that I found interesting was that a lot of times they mentioned the history of Jack Johnson. And Jack Johnson, if you don't know, was a famous boxer. I believe he was the first black heavyweight champion. He's from Galveston, Texas. I talked about him about 2 years ago when I visited Galveston. There's a statue of him in Galveston and everything. And he was like this greater than life man who, pushed the limits. And he is said to be at the time, he probably had more tickets than anybody in the United States because he loved to drive fast. So much so that he challenged somebody in a race. And I believe it was like a NASCAR driver or some of the sort at the time. And he lost, but in that loss, people use that to say, yeah, black people shouldn't be driving, they shouldn't be driving these fast cars. They shouldn't be allowed to race. And it turned into this big racial thing. But Jack Johnson was just like, look, I just want to show y'all that I could get on the road with y'all. And I thought that was interesting as I read that through the various sources. One of the things I wanted to talk about in regard to Victor Green was that, again, he worked at the post office for 39 years before retiring. He was a member of the National Association of Letter Carriers. Oh, give me 1 second. Because which one? Okay, yes. So he worked at the post office for 39 years. He was a member of the National Association of Letter Carriers, NALC, which was founded for postal workers in 1899. But no black people were allowed. No black people were allowed in that. And Victor Green was a black man. And he was one of the first people within this organization. So I wanted to share that. That's how, again, to his entrepreneurism, to who he was as a businessman, as a postal worker, how he took his job very seriously. He was let in a membership where, technically no blacks were allowed. But then he also was a part of the Black Union as well that was founded in 1913. And that was called the National Association of Postal Employees. And it was explicitly to represent blacks in America that was doing postal work. So let's see here. Again, I wrote down, I talked about this previously, but again, the Jim Crow kits, the food, the water, maps, toilet paper, cans to pee in, canned gas, and trunks. Again, they couldn't stop everywhere. There were a lot of places that they couldn't stop for gas. So a lot of times they carried the extra gas in their trunks to get across the states. So I done talked a lot about the Green Book. I'm going to get back to the Green Book. But I want to talk about Idlewild. I'm going to go to the next act. So we were in Harlem, NYC, where the founding of the Green Book was. But now we're going to go to Idlewild, Michigan. There was a lot of dope history that I found out about Idlewild. It's actually one of my favorite movies. So when I saw that, when I came to the rehearsal of The Resonance of Time and saw that the Idlewild would be referenced, I was like, oh, I didn't realize at the time that, like, oh no, this was a real thing, a real place in history where, as they would say, it was recognized like the summer Apollo of Michigan. So you know how we had the Harlem Renaissance going on in Harlem. All the musicians, entertainers, they were doing their thing in Harlem. Well, during the summertime, people would come to Idlewild, which was a resort, and they would come and do their thing there. And it was said that 25,000 visitors would come in a given weekend. This is in the 1930s, 1940s. Like us, we traveling to come pull up to Idlewild, Michigan. Okay? That is like so loud. And I mentioned it last night. Again, if you want to go watch the talk back, it's on YouTube. The Flamingo Club is to Idlewild to what the Eldorado Ballroom is to Houston. And so I gave a history on the Eldorado Ballroom yesterday. And of course, I'm going to get into it today because the Eldorado Ballroom, which is still going on today in Houston, was listed in the Green Book during its publishing. And one of the other interesting history things that I found, dope history things that I found while researching Idlewild, was I started to research and read on the history of Dr. Danny Williams. He was the first African-American cardiologist who performed the first successful... Let me take my time. Excuse me. He was the first African-American cardiologist who performed the first successful open heart surgery. Okay? He founded the first interracial hospital, and he co-founded the National Medical Association, the oldest and largest organization representing African-American physicians and health professionals, and it was founded in 1895. Anytime I say something 18, you know I'm lit, because I love pre-colonial history. I love history up until 1865, but then I really love 1865 to 1876. And what I love even more is the history from 1876 to like the 1900s. And then since becoming the dopest historian, I have been doing a lot of history and research from like the 1900s up until the civil rights. All history is dope history, but to see how, things interconnect when the time periods are coming into each other, like the 1890s. I mean, we're in the middle of the nadir, and dude is co-founding the National Medical Association. I wanted to highlight him because he bought property in Idlewild in 1915, and he co-founded the Idlewild Improvement Association, where they would sell property to W.B. Du Bois and Madam C.J. Walker, along with other prominent black people. So Idlewild was really popping. I mean, I don't know why we don't talk about Idlewild more. I love to get more into the history of Idlewild. From what I can hear, they have been renovating and trying to bring the livelihood back to that area and bring the history back to that area. So I think that, it'll be pretty cool if I happen to travel to Idlewild sometime soon. I'm hint, I most likely will, because like the movie again was great. I didn't know I got that it was a time period movie, but I didn't realize oh no, this is literally like Idlewild. Like this is what was going on, and this is what it is, and this is what it was. Amazing. And I guess from Idlewild, I could go into the Eldorado Ballroom again. This was it is still today, here in Houston, Texas, and this was a location that was highlighted in the Green Book, and not necessarily highlighted in the Green Book, but it is a Green Book entry. The Eldorado Ballroom, founded in 1939. Okay, so the I'm sorry, I'm getting comments and stuff to as I'm going live with y'all, I'm getting comments on the video that I posted last night. So I'm like, oh snap, it's kind of going off. The Green Book was first published in 1937. The Eldorado Ballroom was founded in 1939 by Anna Johnson Dupree and her husband. 60 years later, it was gifted to Project Row Houses. And, Project Row Houses is celebrating their 30th year anniversary this year. They were founded in 1993, celebrating 30 years this year. And the Eldorado Ballroom has the nickname of the home of Happy Feet. So just like in Idlewild, if you were able to see the performance yesterday, they was dancing. They was, hey, 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 they was lit, okay? They was doing the same thing in the Eldorado Ballroom. And I mentioned in the talkback some of the people that graced the stage in the Eldorado Ballroom, some being Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, B.B. King, Houston's own Arnett Cobb, who you can actually find a picture of in Rice's library, James Brown. The music of the Eldorado Ballroom was gospel, blues, R&B, jazz, and Zydeco. The history of Anna Johnson Dupree, which is the founder of the Eldorado Ballroom, is freaking amazing in itself. She was from East Texas, and she came to Houston, and she was on her grind. Another great entrepreneur, okay? History is all about entrepreneurs, right? History is all about creative thinkers, creative doers. And so I really love to highlight her because she was a Black woman creating change in Houston. She started off as a hairdresser. She was doing hair in River Oaks in Houston. If you know what River Oaks is in Houston, you know she was getting that guap, okay? And at the time, her and her husband went out a lot so that they could establish the Eldorado Ballroom right on the corner of Elgin and what used to be Dowling. It is now called Emancipation Park. If you come to my history tour, you know why. It was great that we changed that street name from Dowling, the history of Dowling. Like, sir, we're not going to even get into that. But yeah, change from the street of Dowling. But it was like the place to go, for fun. People would dress up. It was a very classy, an elegant type feel to the Eldorado Ballroom. It was different from your other clubs and your bars within Black clubs and bars within the city. It was a place. It was just a place, of excellence. A couple of tidbits that I have written down is that there were generational differences with the love for dance. So you can find people in their early 20s to their late 50s, 60s, like in the same area, in the same venue, dancing and having fun. One of the things that I thought was interesting was that the only Black authorized refrigerator dealer was housed downstairs where Black businesses were. So if you're familiar with the Eldorado Ballroom, even in the renovation, downstairs, there's a downstairs and there's an upstairs. Upstairs is where the ballroom is. That's where they was dancing, partying, getting lit, okay? And then downstairs is where they had Black businesses. And today, I believe the Dorado cafe is down there, and like the general offices are downstairs. But to know that the only Black authorized refrigerator dealer was housed downstairs, and I think that really caught my eye because it was something Brantley, and my last name is Brantley. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is dope history. I didn't know that the only Black refrigerator dealer was housed downstairs of the Eldorado Ballroom. How freaking amazing. One of the things that led to the decline of the Eldorado Ballroom was that there was nowhere to park after the Korean War. And then again, integration. And to be honest, that is something that is highlighted many of times throughout the history when reading about the Green Book, is how the decline of the Green Book pretty much came with integration. And with integration, as we know, or if you don't know, it became the decline of many Black businesses because Black people started to go in places that they were never ever able to go to. They wanted to experience something, they wanted to go somewhere where they weren't able to. And so with that, they were taking away businesses. They were taking away business from the people that had been opening their doors from them the whole time. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's an interesting thing when you look at the history of, when you look at Black history, Black economic history, Black traveling history, the Green Book history. And then when we get into these specific entities like the Eldorado Ballroom, the Flamingo Club, again, it was all great and grand and popping, during the Jim Crow era. But as we get into integration, a lot of these places were abandoned. So let's see here. I talked a lot about this, talked about a lot about that. So I'm going to list some of the many different Green Book guides. We're almost done here. I've been talking here for a long, long time. But I've enjoyed my time here. I hope that you watch this video back. If you're enjoying the history, share with your peoples. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave it in the comments. Check out the YouTube. Share with your friends to follow me, Dopest History, the Dopest Historian. Again, I know I have been a little MIA, but that's because I got two jobs. And so I don't, it's hard for me to find the time, to be honest. It's just hard for me to find the time. I am constantly reading and researching, but then to take the time. Oh, and I'm a mom. Like, that's like, okay, you got two jobs. And, and I'm a mom. So when I'm not at work, I'm doing my mom thing. But grateful for it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my boy Chandler Lee. That's my son, y'all. Okay, let's get into it. But no, yeah. Again, I'm just rambling. I just wanted to come and tell y'all thank you. Again, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, all the great things. LinkedIn. When I pop out, I pop out. And, my goal is to give y'all the best of what I got in the time, Again, so we're going back to the many different guides of traveling back. So we have the Grayson's Guide, the Directory of Negro Hotels and Guest Houses, the Guide to Pleasant Motoring, Bronze American National Travel Guide, and then the travel guide itself. A lot of the travel guides were available only via mail, versus the Green Book was available at gas stations, specifically Esso Oil. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I got two, I got 2 pages of some more dope history. But I'm going to try to keep it brief with the history of Esso Oil, because we talked about Esso Oil yesterday so briefly, but I mean, who knew, right? Exxon is still going on today. I think it started off as Standard Oil, went on to Esso Oil, and then today, it's still it's Exxon Mobil, right? Or I think they cut off the Mobil. It's just Exxon, right? Let's talk about Esso. 1940, Esso was the only national chain of gas stations that carried the Green Book. Almost 40% of the Esso dealers in the U.S. were black. And yesterday there was a gentleman who corrected the statement that was made that Esso Oil was black owned, and he was correct. Esso Oil was not black owned. But what they did do was employ a lot of black people. Again, 40% of the Esso dealers in the U.S. were black. Okay, that's a lot. Again, this is during Jim Crow era. Okay, and black people were more likely to allow their families to stop there, to use the restrooms, to get the gas from there. And the reason why Esso Oil was so dedicated to the black experience was, and this was mentioned as well, the parents of Lawrence Spelman Rockefeller, listen to the name, the wife of John D. Rockefeller. I'm pretty sure you know these people. We learned about them in U.S. history, whatever. No shade to them, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. When we talking about John D. Rockefeller, why we can't mention the black history that kind of links to the Green Book? Huh? But anyways, John D. Rockefeller, but really it was his wife. His wife's parents were abolitionists, and they instilled the belief of equality into their daughter. And her daughter, of course, was like, husband, you know what I'm saying? I believe in equality. We got all this bread. We need to help the folks that need it most. And that's the black folks. Okay. And so, I wanted to highlight the Rockefellers. And then there also was a gentleman that went by James. His name was James Jackson, but his nickname would become James Billboard Jackson. And you want to know why his nickname was Billboard? Because he was the first black editor of the Negro department of Billboard, the magazine of the entertainment business. And so he was the one that put a lot of our black entertainers to the forefront, put them on a national stage, and letting them be known in the entertainment world. So he did that at Billboard, and then he came to Esso Oil and became their marketing person. And so Rockefeller and James Billboard Jackson, the co-founder, Rockefeller, and then James Billboard Jackson marketing, were the reasons the Esso Oil connected so well with the Green Book. Again, they were the ones, the Esso Oil, not only did they give oil and rest stops for black Americans, but they held the Green Book. They was passing out them babies like this, okay? Like, here, pick up your green book. Don't forget your green book. They called it the Bible. Don't forget your Bible. Get your Bible. You know what I'm saying? They was, the Esso Oil being stationed, a national gas station, passing out these green books did a great deal for the green book. Again, just a little bit more history. In 1934, James Billboard Jackson was hired by Esso as the first African-American marketing and public relations specialist, and he stayed for 21 years promoting Black business around the country. He was the first Black member of the American Marketing Association. Again, we have another Black pioneer. I've never really heard of James Billboard Jackson, but he was the first Black member of the American Marketing Association. This is somebody who was putting Black people on the Billboard. We know about the Billboard Awards. We know about the Billboard today, but did you know, you probably could figure out, but did you know, like, a Black man being the first, he was the first, and he was the one that was putting Black people on the map. Let's talk about, there was a National Hotel Association. It was an invite-only membership organization, and there were no dues. Black hotel and motel professionals would come together, and with this, they would offer their services. They would offer their locations to Victor Green so that, they could be, Black people could be accommodated during their travel. Again, and just to close it off, wrap it up rather. Victor Green felt that if white and Black Americans could meet face to face in neutral territory, maybe they could learn to respect each other. And the neutral territory were the places where they would travel, where there was the beach, and just different areas of resorts and different areas that Black and white people will often. I mean, I see you on the road, you see me on the road, you see me here, you see me there. Maybe we can come to learn to respect each other. We still working on it, but hey, I mean, the idea was there, okay? He had the idea and he brought it to life. One of the other interesting things that I thought was amazing about the Green Book that I want to share is that there was no racial tone within the book. And that was another reason why I was able to go and do such great grand things, because although, I did say that they supported the civil rights movement, they didn't tell you where not to go. They didn't say, oh, don't go here because you may get lynched. Don't go there because they're racist. They just focused on the green places. They focused on places where you could go, where you are welcomed, and when they wrote articles, again, they didn't use harsh language. They didn't say things that would offend white people. And so from that, the Green Book was able to be very successful. Two last tidbits that I want to share. Texas Southern University. It's a university. It's an HBCU, historically Black college and university here in Houston, Texas. And it spawned from the Houston College of Negroes, which was listed in the Green Book. And so I just wanted to share that. And then also my grandfather, he was a saxophone player from Fifth Ward, and he would play at the Club Matinee, which was listed in the Green Book for Houston, as well as the El Dorado Ballroom. Random call. I don't never get calls, y'all, but of course, as I'm ending my live, somebody's calling me. But yes, thank you all so much for spending time with me. I hope that you all enjoyed some of the history I had to share. I know it was a lot of just blah, 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 blah. But yeah, maybe, I'll make this into a series where I'll, break it up so you can get the history and tidbits. Again, go subscribe to YouTube, watch the video on YouTube, share with your friends, come out to the Alley Theater, hit me up if you want, come see some, do some, let me know. And yeah, that's it. Thank y'all for popping in. Thank y'all for liking and sharing and commenting and, uplifting me as the dopest historian. It really means a lot when I hear that, you enjoyed my commentary, you enjoyed the speech, or not speech, but, enjoyed the things that I share with you all. Because sometimes I feel like this is only interesting to me. I love to know it's interesting to you too. But anyways, y'all, I gotta go. I am going to work today. I work at the Alley on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, okay? So, Until next time, bye-bye. Have a great evening, afternoon, all the great things. Oh, happy Thanksgiving. Bye.